Well, the video started off in a disaster, not being able to find half the things that I needed to make it. Luckily, I was able to find my headset mic, but we'll figure it out and we'll get on with it. So last week, I talked a little bit about the fact that I had gotten into running late last summer, and I mentioned that I need to get a supportive shoe. And supportive shoes are great, and I ended up getting this pair of Asics that is very supportive, and I found that I needed to add an insert. And this was great because it gave me a little bit extra arch support because my plantar fasciitis was threatening to come back. And that is no fun whatsoever. And the thing with shoes and orthotics, it's interesting compared to rehab. So in rehab, somebody injures themselves and they go through these exercises, and they probably have supports. Many times they'll have a brace or crutches or a walker, whatever it may be, and they learn to walk again or whatever the case may be. Anyway, as they are using these supports to lightly exercise the muscles to get them back into shape, the therapist will remove pieces of support. And gradually you build up to, or you lessen the amount of support as the muscles are building up. And the end game is to have someone fully functional without any support. Now, of course, we know that some accidents are too severe for that to happen, but that's the ideal outcome. So in the world of shoes, it's a little bit different, as I've been discovering. In the world of shoes, if you have any foot problems, they give you support, and they want to fully support your foot. In rehab, they want to mostly support you, and then support you a little bit less and a little bit less. But with orthotics, they want a complete support of the foot, which means that your foot never gets a chance to grow and develop and to have that exercise that it needs to strengthen and rehabilitate itself, so to speak. So what I did is I started off with the insert and with this shoe. Well, I started off with the shoe, then added the insert. And this is what I did. This is the setup that I did my 10K with. And that was great, but I said, after looking at a couple of videos on running, I said there's probably something that I could do that's even better. So what I ended up picking up was not a supportive shoe as much. It's a bit more of a neutral shoe. This is a supportive shoe, and this is a neutral shoe. So I wanted a little bit less support, so that, guess what? My foot would strengthen. But as I was reading more and more about shoes and about how to heal injuries, how to avoid getting things like shin splints, something kept on coming up over and over and over again, and that was the idea of going with even less support towards what they call a minimalist shoe. And I'm not going to jump right into a minimalist shoe, but I thought I would pick up something that would get me one step closer. And this is a zero drop shoe, so it's the same height here where your foot is and here, which stretches out your Achilles. So why do I say all of this stuff? Well, this is the shoe that I want to use to strengthen my foot even more, so that I will have less problems, and that my feet, my foundation, would be stronger as I go. And there's a transition period, and it's not always going to be comfortable, and it's not always going to be easy, and you have to work at it. So here's the spiritual application, because we had just had a big talk about for 6 minutes on shoes and footwear and how they all work and rehab and everything. So here's the point. We have a lot of different supports in our life, and supports take away from the necessity of faith. Think about it this way. We have friends and family. Many of us have friends and family that we can fall back on, that we can rely on to help us get out of a little bit of a jam. And if we don't have, and besides friends and family, we also have all the government programs. Many of us have a job. We may not be the best of everything, but we generally have food and clothing and shelter and transportation, many of us, or even if it's public transportation, we're still able to take that transportation. So we have those needs covered. But what happens if your house burns down? Well, we have house insurance. And what happens if you get in a car accident, your transportation's shot? Well, we have car insurance. And what happens if this happens? Well, we have this and this and this and this. We have all these things lined up. All these supports are lined up, and there's very little necessity for faith when we have all these supports. So with all these supports and in our lives and in society, how does God navigate through that? Because if God just let us have smooth sailing, then we would never have the need, and we're fully supported by everything around us, then we never need to exercise that faith muscle. And our faith muscle because it acts like a muscle. So if you use it, it strengthens. If you don't use it, it weakens. And our faith is basically our foundation, because remember, we are saved by grace through faith. And so if we don't exercise our faith, what will end up happening? Well, it'll get weaker and weaker and atrophy and become no good anymore. So when God allows trials to come to our life, we can't really look to others for support. Maybe we're not going to be able to look to the government for support. It's not much fun relying on them anyway. At first, when these things come upon us, who knows what it might be? It might be that you lose your job. And at first, exercising this faith is no fun. And then after you exercise faith for a while, guess what? It's still no fun. You're still tearing, that muscle still getting all torn up and has to be built back up. And when it repairs itself, of course, just like a regular muscle, it gets a little bit stronger. And if it was fun, it wouldn't be called trials and tribulations. Let's face it. But luckily for us, he starts us off slowly, and he starts us off with lots of support. But then he needs to move us on, because we're stagnant and we need to get moving a little bit. And eventually he wants us to rely on him even more, and he goes a little bit more minimal, and he allows us to go through a few more trials. And are they ever trials without tribulation? Good thought. I don't know. I can't see a trial without tribulation. It's almost like it's redundant. Anyhow, he starts us off slowly, and he builds our faith up, and he continues to. I hope the squeaking chair doesn't come through the mic. It's really annoying. It's just squeaks like crazy. Anyhow, luckily for us, he starts us off nice and slow before he allows these trials to happen, before he allows the faith muscle to be used, before he allows some of these supports that we rely on so much to be slowly pulled away, allowing for slight discomfort, but not allowing us to be injured beyond repair. And that's a wonderful thing, and it may not seem like it when we're going through some hard times, but we know that he doesn't waste any of our pain or discomfort, and he just wants to keep us on our toes and to keep our faith on him, because having faith in the world, we will always be disappointed. But when we keep our faith in him, he will lead us to where we need to go. And he doesn't push us too hard, and he doesn't push us too fast, but just at the right pace that we can handle, because he loves us and he wants to do us no harm. So as you go through the rest of the week, just remember that he's looking out for you, and remember to pray that he gives you more faith. And when you do that, expect that you might go through a couple of rocky times, but in the end, it will be well worth it. Anyway, have yourselves a wonderful day.